Good morning. Today is Sunday, August 24th, 2025, and this is the weekly Bitcoin price forecast. Looking at where Bitcoin went in the last week and where it could potentially go in the future. So we're kind of at the end of August right now. This is the last full week in August. I think the 31st will be the last day. So next Sunday will be the last day of August. And it's just been, as you can see on here, a very kind of back and forth month, almost a doji candle to where it started where it began. So right now we're a little bit below where the open price was. And, we've seen highs. We did actually make a new all-time high this month. And then we did come back down and clean up a little bit of this imbalance between the top of this wick and the opening price of July. So it did come back down and clean a little bit of that up. You see this green area here to where there is still a little bit of a gap, but I do not think that will be filled at this point, just based on what we've seen within the last week, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for right now, we're still just very much so in the middle of this area right here. So I think we'll probably close somewhere around the open, maybe a little bit higher, but not too much. And then going into September, I think that's when we'll really start to see the takeoff start to happen. So Q4 is going to be exciting. I'm confident of that at this point. September is the last month of Q3, and we should see some exciting stuff happen. So, all right. Overall, it's been the weekly chart. So we did have this. This was 2024. No, actually, this was 2024. This was right after the election. You had this huge run up. And then a big downtrend from tariffs and all the new financial stuff that came in, the policies and whatnot. But most of this was tariffs, and then this was just like this big drop into it. But actually, with Bitcoin, it actually performed pretty well with tariffs. So we saw this, all this right here was tariffs. So this was the beginning of April, and that's when a lot of this was announced. So you had a big kind of international trade war in some degree, and that really shook up the markets for a bit. But Bitcoin really just absolutely performed in a fantastic manner from that point. Ran up, did a little bit of ranging for a while, but we still see that we're just continuing this gradual step up and down. So we've saw this downtrend and then a boost up, and then I think we're seeing the same thing here, to where we're seeing this downtrend, and then we're just going to absolutely rock it up to higher levels. So we can go ahead and turn the drawings on at this point. So I keep talking about these different levels that we're at. So we see these major areas of consolidation and liftoff, consolidation and liftoff, consolidation, liftoff, consolidation and liftoff. And again, we still just have so much more. We have so much more support under price at this point than we did in the past, and that just keeps on creeping up. So every week that we pass, this support gets higher and higher and higher. So you have things like the 100K area, which is very strong. You have the short-term holder realized price, which actually I need to update that. I think it's 108,900. I looked yesterday, but you have this escape velocity line that I keep talking about that really kind of holds the the tops down. So I'm going to keep talking about it every week. It basically marked the cycle top, but now we see that we're breaking above that in a pretty strong manner. We're very far from the end of this bull run, because right now we're just starting rate cuts. And which we haven't even started that yet. So we're already above this area, and I think we're just going to continue on going higher. So we've seen pretty strong support at 117. We actually did go below that, and last week I talked about that we're probably going to see some type of breakdown. Let's go to the daily chart. I talked about that we'll see some type of breakdown probably. So we had this area of consolidation, broke out of here, came down, actually retested this area, and that's what this blue line was. This blue line was the retest of that area. So this was Sunday of last week, the 17th, and I said we'll probably see some type of pullback to here, which we absolutely did. So we saw the pullback down to here. I said we probably wouldn't go below 108. So 114 to 108 had pretty strong support in this area, and we absolutely did not go below that area. So 110 is the 100-day moving average. 114 is the 50-day moving average. So we came down here and we rocketed back up. And then, Saturday and Sunday, a little bit of downward motion. That's no big deal. We'll just see that continue to go up. But yeah, at this point, now that I see this, 112 is almost looking like you're lying in the sand here. If we draw this, so some type of line here, a little bit above your 100-day moving average, and then again, all of this support right here. So yeah, we're very well on our way to seeing much higher prices as time goes by. So let me see. Moving on up, I think that we'll just continue to see this continue on to the upside. So Friday, this is a big candle. We went all the way from 112 to a top of 116. And a lot of that had to do with the Federal Reserve in Jackson Hole and their annual meeting of the Federal Reserve chairs in Wyoming. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, but overall, I do think that we're done with the downtrend here. This has been a very nice consolidating area, but now it's time to go back to the upside. So 4-hour chart. So yeah, this is a very clean downtrend here. Very clean downtrend, and then this absolute God candle up. You could see it come back down to 113 one more time to clean up some of this imbalance because, again, this was a very big, violent move upwards. But outside of that, I think we're just going to continue to see this upward trajectory. So we're at the point where it's almost up-only season. Okay. News from the last week, news for the upcoming week. Not much. You got preliminary GDP, unemployment, and core PCE price index. I don't think any of these matter really in the grand scheme of things. I mean, we'll see how they play out, but these are not major movers and shakers. To end the month off. The next week you'll have a lot of labor and employment and stuff, but the big thing is on Friday, I talked about Jackson Hole a little bit, which was in Wyoming. This past, I think it was Thursday and Friday, you had the Fed Chair Jerome Powell. He spoke. And basically, he was very strongly hinting at it's time to start cutting rates. So everyone had been kind of anticipating that anyway, but now it has been somewhat confirmed, not officially confirmed, but it has been strongly hinted at that we'll be cutting rates. So the Federal Reserve has a dual mandate to both keep inflation in check and to keep the labor market in check as well. Maximize employment and minimize inflation, and that's a very hard thing to do in this environment, especially with the way that we played with interest rates since about 2008. And I mean, this is a Kobesi letter. He's a very good source of information, and has proven to be over time. So they basically what he was hinting at is that we've really played the inflation game in 2020. And now we are looking at the employment side of things, and it's just at the point where they're just going to start cutting rates. And it's interesting because now we're at a point where the only winners moving forward are going to be the ones who hold some type of assets. So we're at a point of really stagflation to where we have stagnant wages and inflation is increasing. Inflation is somewhere sitting around 2% right now, but it's sitting around 2%. I really do actually think that's probably going to go a little bit higher as we continue, but it's not going to be as drastic as what we saw in 2020 around COVID when we saw a almost 100 points, not 100 points. It was it went to about 7 points of inflation. So 7% inflation versus the regular 2 to 3% that most people use for their retirement calculations. That was huge. So I don't think we're going to go that extreme, but we'll see. It's they're not going to do those type of major cutting measures as they did. So I'm looking at probably about 50 to about 75 basis points by the end of the year. So almost a full point of inflation, and then that will probably continue into next year. This is Polymarket, so I mean a huge betting apparatus. So 45 million on the line of volume for this one particular bet for Polymarket. What's the Fed's decision in September? So right now we're looking at about 78% that we'll do a 25 basis point decrease. So a 25 point cut And then what are they looking at in October? What are they looking at in October? And then another 25, and then you're looking at probably about another 25% cut. This differential is much closer than the other ones. So yeah, like we see in the September one, it's just absolutely taken off. Like this is a 70, this is a 50-point swing here, versus the other one was about like 10 points. So it's almost locked in that we're gonna have some type of rate cut in September. The other thing that I want to talk about is, obviously this is a Bitcoin price forecast, but really you got to look at Ethereum too. So Ethereum, we have seen this chart is Ethereum priced in Bitcoin. So the higher that this chart goes, the more that Ethereum is outpacing Bitcoin in terms of price action. So for the last 3 to 4 months, Ethereum has been beating Bitcoin in terms of price appreciation, and Ethereum just hit an all-time high within the last week, and actually it was on Friday. So that's the weekly chart. So we see that it kind of bottomed out in early April, actually around tariff time. It bottomed out around that time, and then you saw this huge move upwards in early May, consolidation, and then it just kept on continuing on to the upside. So this is the weekly chart. Not quite on an uptrend on the weekly time frame just yet, but in the daily time frame, we have absolutely confirmed an uptrend. So I look at the moving average really to confirm your uptrend. So you have this consolidation period to where the moving averages got to catch up, and then you finally had this cross right here. You had a 150 cross, you had a 50 and 200 cross. Now you've had the 100 and 200 cross. So now we're in a full-blown uptrend in my mind. So this was your major golden cross here in late September, and really for the month of August, it did not disappoint. Just continuing on to the upside here, and then just moving and moving and moving. So yeah, I think that trend will continue as Ethereum gets higher and higher. Right now, it's sitting at about 4,800. Like I said, it just hit a new all-time high. So we'll continue to watch that. So again, this is Ethereum priced in Bitcoin, and right now, the ratio. Let's look at how big the ratio was on a weekly chart. That ratio kind of hit a maximum of around here. So 0.08, 0.085 Ethereum to 1 Bitcoin, an eighth of an Ethereum. So at current prices, let's just say Bitcoin held at current prices. So at 115, 115 times 0.085. That'd be a $10,000 Ethereum. $10,000 Ethereum, and let's say, for argument's sake, that we do a $250,000 Bitcoin, and if it gets back up to that old ratio of 0.085, you're looking at a $20,000 Ethereum. So I mean, this really is a good bet. Ethereum is number 2 and has been number 2 always. I don't think it'll ever overtake Bitcoin at this point. But it is a very strong contender at 4,000. You could get a solid 5x over the coming year or two in Bitcoin, in Ethereum. You're not going to get a 5x in Bitcoin in the next year or two. It's just realistically we've already seen a lot of movement. We haven't seen that movement in Ethereum. So now Ethereum is actually waking up. And we're going to see good things. So it's broken out from, it was below this zone that is now broken from above it. And we're just continuing on to the upside. So, last thing I'll look at, and I'm gonna start looking at this every week, which I should have been doing anyway, was the flows for the total Bitcoin ETF net inflow. So, this is what I really want to look at. So this chart right here, total spot net flow in USD. So for Bitcoin, we have seen a bit of an outflow over the last week. Again, this kind of coincides with like that downtrend that I was talking about. So the net flow was negative, and we saw that price went down to kind of touch that area that I was talking about, somewhere around like 112 or 110 or something like that. So we saw a net outflow, but now it looks like we're coming to peak back up to the upside, and seeing a positive inflow. So I think that trend is going to continue for the rest of the year. And the other one that we'll look at is Ethereum. So the Ethereum ETF overview. Let's look at the spot net inflow. I guess this is this one. Anyway, yeah. So you end up having this ETF inflow, and so we see that again since about early April, it has we've been on an uptrend. A little bit of a downtrend here at this point, but what was this? This was early August, early to mid August. So there's been a little bit of profit taken at this point after like a huge run up. But we see that Ethereum's ETF never really took off. What was this, 2024? This is after the election. This is post election and going into the inauguration, and then, just a period of silence. And then, around tariff time, it did start picking up once again. So yeah, that's good. I think we're going to continue to see these ETF inflows continue to pick up, and as long as you're seeing positive inflows, you're going to see price appreciation because they are a major driver for the ETFs for Ethereum and whatnot. So I think that's it for this week. So the big picture is rate cuts are incoming. Whether it be September or October, it's looking like September at this point. Probably one or two more rate cuts after that this year, and then a couple more going into next year. You have rate cuts at the end of this year. Ethereum is waking up. Bitcoin is probably about to make new all-time highs. So we're just absolutely in full send season. It is full send across the board, whether you're looking at things like gold and silver, precious metals, things like crypto, so Ethereum and Bitcoin, even real estate is at all-time highs. So, power to the people who have assets, and like they're going to continue to win over the coming years. Just because, again, that's kind of the financial regime that we're in at this point. So, not too much else to talk about here. So again, this has been Chris Talks Crypto. Check out any crypto-based resources on christalkscrypto.com, and I will see y'all on the moon. Take care. Bye-bye.